Hi. Are you there? Huh? Where are you? Oh.
I gotta put on my poetry shirt.
Okay, what's your poetry shirt?
Huh?
Okay, what's your poetry shirt?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know. That's the issue.
You already are really brown. All right. So, wait, hold on. Is it going? Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, we're going to pretend we just arrived. I'm Madison.
I'm Ethan.
Yeah. We're hosting this poetry workshop. It's called Shout because if you have an opinion you want to share, you can just shout it out.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's create it. And we basically started this had this idea for this workshop because we wanted to talk about like how people like treat poetry and like define poetry, and like the way like what we call the canon of poetry is like taught in classroom settings. And basically we want to kind of expand the narrative of like what's considered poetry worthy of being appreciated and talked about, like, you know, so we're going beyond Shakespeare and like Whitman and like all those old dudes, you know,
Yeah.
who always get their boots licked in English classes, you know. So I think, yeah, let's just start with some icebreakers first, and then we can get into some like discussion about poetry and all that fun stuff. And like we'll go through specific poems and stuff. I can go first. We'll basically just say our names, where we're from, and then what we've been doing during quarantine, and what we hope to do after quarantine is over. So I'm Madison. I'm from Naperville, and I've been trying to get my sleep schedule back on track because I woke up at 2:30 this afternoon. And I hope once quarantine is over that I can begin working at the summer camp I work at every summer as a counselor. And I hope that doesn't get canceled. So whoever wants to go next can go next.
I
can go.
Right on. No, go for it.
Okay, I'm Olivia. I'm from Pontiac, Illinois, which is where I'm at currently. What have I been doing during quarantine? Not a lot. I do yoga. I've been doing yoga, and I recently started to lift 5-pound weights. Go me.
Hell yeah.
Good for you.
Yes. After quarantine, I probably want to lift a 10-pound weight, but I'm not gonna push myself.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go. My name is Bennett. It's not your turn, please.
I'm listening.
My name is Ethan. I am from Deerfield, Illinois, northern suburbs. And what I've been doing during quarantine is a lot of hanging out, watching The Sopranos, and rollerblading is how I'm trying to stay active. And what I hope to do when quarantine is over is go to a bar again with my friends.
Nice.
That'd be good for me because I turned 21 during quarantine.
Oh.
Very nice. Happy birthday, or when's your birthday?
It was last Tuesday.
Very
So
nice. Happy birthday.
thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Copycat.
All right, who's next?
I'll go. It's just us four, right?
Yes.
For now.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I'll go though. My name's Bennett. I'm from Highland Park, Illinois, which is next door to Deerfield. What have I been doing during quarantine? A little bit of work. Have this senior project that's been like a little bit of effort, but mostly just outside of that, hanging out and playing video games, I guess. I'm in Champaign right now, actually, not in the Chicago area or anything like that. We have some friends here, and then we're all kind of hanging out, quarantining together. After quarantine, I'm going to start full-time work. So I'm a senior. I don't know if you guys are seniors also. But I'm going to start full-time work in July. And so I'm looking forward to that. We'll see if I start working from home or start in the office. I guess that should be interesting. But I'm excited about it.
Nice. All right. So with that, I'm just losing my train of thought. I'm all over the place today. Okay, let's just get into some of the poems we were supposed to talk about. Bennett, I don't know if you have the links to everything, so I can just screen share, and we can also read them out loud. Let me just pull that up. The first one we're going to be looking at is Song by Brigit Pegeen Kelly, who, fun fact, worked at the University of Illinois and was part of faculty before she died. And her husband also works in the English department. So.
Wait.
Yeah.
Who's her husband?
I don't remember his name. Hold on, let me Google it. But he was supposed to come in to my poetry class, not last semester, but the semester before that, to talk about his wife's poetry, but he was I think he had something else going on.
He's an English professor?
Did
they share the same last name?
I have to check. Hold on. Her name is not spelled the way you think it would be, so I had to put it in a few times. Brigit Pegeen Kelly husband.
Okay.
Michael Madonic.
Oh.
Madonic or
No, you got it right. You got it right. I took a class with him and then I dropped that class.
Oh. Oh no. That's okay.
It's okay.
Definitely forgives you.
He was just very intense.
Yeah. I've never had a class with him, so but yeah, we're gonna read Brigit Pegeen Kelly's song. I I have so many tabs open. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Here it is. Okay. So does anyone want to read out loud, or we can popcorn it, or one of us, either Ethan or I, can just read? It doesn't really matter.
What does popcorn mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. I use that with little kids, but it's like you just read however much of a passage you want to. Then you're like popcorn, and then you call someone out, and then they read.
That's adorable. Let's do that.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
Start us out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so does everyone have it pulled up?
I do.
Okay.
No, wait, I don't think so. Is it in the chat?
He's driving.
I threw it in the chat. Are you driving, dude?
Yeah, I'm not gonna read it. I don't think.
Okay, just keep your ears open. We're also not liable if anything happens, okay?
Oh, you are liable. That's not right.
Okay, I'll start, and I won't call on Bennett while he's driving.
I'm listening though.
Okay, so it starts. Listen, there was a goat's head hanging by ropes in a tree. All night it hung there and sang, and those who heard it felt a hurt in their hearts and thought they were hearing the song of a night bird. They sat up in their beds, and then they lay back down again. In the night wind, the goat's head swayed back and forth, and far off it shone faintly, the way the moonlight shone on the train track, miles away, beside which the goat's headless body lay. Some boys had hacked its head off. It was harder work than they had imagined. Popcorn, Olivia!
The goat cried like a man and struggled hard, but they finished the job. They hung the bleeding head by the school and then ran off into the darkness that seems to hide everything. The head hung in the tree. The body lay by the tracks. The head called to the body to the head. They missed each other. The missing grew large between them until it pulled the heart right out of the body, until the drawn heart flew toward the head, flew as a bird flies back to its cage, the familiar perch from which it thrills. Then the heart sang in the head, softly at first, and then louder, sang long and low until the morning light came up over the school and over the tree, and then the singing stopped. Popcorn, Ethan!
The goat had belonged to a small girl. She named the goat Broken Thorn Sweet Blackberry. Named it after the night's bush of stars because the goat's silky hair was dark as well water because it had eyes like wild fruit. The girl lived near a high railroad track. At night, she heard the trains passing, the sweet sound of the train's horn pouring softly over her head. And each morning she woke to give the bleeding goat his pail of warm milk. She sang him songs about girls with ropes and cooks in boats. She brushed him with a stiff brush. She dreamed daily that he grew bigger, and he did. She thought her dreaming made it so. But one night, the girl didn't hear the train's horn, and the next morning she woke to an empty yard. The goat was gone. Everything looked strange. It was as if a storm had passed through while she slept, wind and stones, rain stripping the branches of fruit. She knew that someone, Popcorn Madison.
Okay. She knew that someone had stolen the goat and that he had come to harm. She called to him. All morning and into the afternoon she called and called. She walked and walked. In her chest, a bad feeling, like the feeling of the stones gouging the soft undersides of her bare feet. Then somebody found the goat's body by the high tracks, the flies already filling their soft bottles at the goat's torn neck. Then somebody found the head hanging in a tree by the school. I've got a stuffy nose, I'm fighting a sneeze. They hurried to take these things away so that the girl would not see them. They hurried to raise money to buy the girl another goat. They hurried to find the boys who had done this, to hear them say it was a joke. It was nothing but a joke. But listen, here is the point. The boys thought to have their fun and be done with it. Popcorn, Olivia.
It was harder work than they had imagined, the silly sacrifice, but they finished the job, whistling as they washed their large hands in the dark. What they didn't know was the goat's head was already singing behind them in the tree. What they didn't know was the goat's head would go on singing just for them, long after the ropes were down, and that they would learn to listen. Pail after pail, stroke after patient stroke, they would wake in the night thinking they heard the wind in the trees or a night bird, but their hearts beating harder. There would be a whistle, a hum, a high murmur, and at last a song. The low song a lost voice sings, remembering his mother's call. Not a cruel song, no, no, not cruel at all. This song is sweet. It is sweet. The heart dies of this sweetness. Done.
Hell yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess just let's go around and like share our initial thoughts first, if anyone has any. It's okay if you don't, or if you're still.
It's okay. I think initially I mostly thought, I think this is boring and why should I care about this goat that's hanging in a tree? But I think that's how most poems, especially long poems, start for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is boring and why is there a goat hanging in a tree? But I think as you got to know more details, especially about the relationships,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, this goat was something to the girl. And these boys did this, but didn't know like the repercussions of their actions, or more so just how those actions would weigh on them.
Mm-hmm.
That gave the poem more substance to me. One of my initial thoughts I thought was, why is it structured like this? But that could just be also have to do with syllables or things like that and things. I don't like structure.
My poetry teacher from a couple semesters ago showed our class this poem actually, and a lot of people, including me, were confused or like even upset by it, because it's like, this isn't a poem, it's like, it's a story. And then we were introduced to this thing called narrative poetry, which is essentially what this is. It's a poem that comes across as a story. And you can tell, Bennett, you probably know the formatting, but it's basically like a wall of text on the page. And I don't know, after I got over my initial confusion at like how this could be a poem, I like started to really like it. And I've been getting really into narrative poetry and trying to write my own. But that's hard because you have to actually come up with a story instead of just word vomiting your feelings on a page. And I don't know, something hit me like halfway through when I first read this, and it like, I don't know, I feel like it's less about the goat for me and more about like the violence of it. And like, I don't know how to formulate it, but
no, I get what you're saying, because like halfway through that was the turning point for me, like when I started caring.
Yeah,
because
like,
she gets very in depth in describing the violence of it. I mean, not as in depth as you can, but still, like, I think one of the lines that actually, well, I didn't quite, I think it was just how it was worded was just it was the flies filling their soft bottles. It was something like that, or just a strange, because I didn't understand it, like, what is a bottle, soft bottle? Is just its stomach, I guess. It's like a disturbing image. Like, we obviously don't like flies as like human beings, so I don't know, it's usually just disturbing hearing them brought into a conversation or brought up. like decay. I don't know. I liked the poem. It just you sort of have to give it another read through just because it is so long.
You have to take a couple like read throughs to process everything.
Yeah.
And it's like at first I kind of felt like, oh, it's a story about a goat being killed. And then I started focusing more on like how the boys' role in this. And it kind of felt like more of an act of violence against the girl than the goat.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
That's a really good way of putting it. I like that. I think there's like a lot of interesting connections to be made, maybe like metaphorically, in terms of like the characters and how they interact with each other. For example, like, I mean, I don't have the words in front of me.
That's
and
okay.
I couldn't string them out, but I was listening to the story in general. And it sounds like, you know, plot wise, you have, you know, this girl who doesn't really I think it doesn't really matter that it's a goat per se, but more that she cares about something that's a living thing, you know, it's living in her mind as well. That she cares about it so much that she wants to take care of it. And then you have this, you know, kind of malicious group of boys kind of counteracting that, trying to, maybe not necessarily trying to hurt her, but trying to hurt the goat, you know, purposefully, maybe not necessarily trying to hurt her. And then you have this third party, which to me sound like all the adults trying to rectify everything, which was interesting to me because it sounds like the adults are trying to cover up for the actions of the boys in this case.
Wow.
I almost get
that's what I heard.
like a vibe of like boys will be boys from this poem, which is probably one of the more disturbing aspects of it. I mean, I don't know if anyone else got that vibe, but like this is like not my first read through. I've been fixated on this poem for a while, so yeah.
Now that you say that, yeah, definitely. Like I think like she's definitely like highlighting like the worst of like young adolescent like male behavior, because they're just doing like this totally horrible, like uncalled for act, like killing this goat that obviously had nothing to do with them. And the part that stood out to me to the poem is like that it was like, I guess towards the end, like the latter part. And I think that's how like most of these type of things for me, I usually like the last part of it is the part that I connect with because it's like fresh in my mind. And I just like just the last couple lines where they're talking about how like the boys are kind of still hearing like the goats, they're still kind of hearing the goats singing is like I think the word they use. And I don't know, I've been trying to figure out why it's like why she chose to say that it's sweet, like those are the words she used, that the goats like singing is sweet. So that's been something that I'm trying to figure out if anyone has thoughts on that part.
It does feel very much so like it could be like a euphemism for rape culture, like especially just because I mean a goat doesn't sing like a girl sings, and if you think of the goat as really sort of another part of the girl, then it's like an act of violence on the girl, which I think that Bennett said or Ethan said. I don't remember. I don't know. But I don't know. Because when I was reading it, at least with sort of the connection of the girl and the goat, that's sort of what I got from it. Especially when Bennett brought up that, like, okay, well, now the adults are trying to like say, oh, we'll buy you a new goat, it'll be fine, we're gonna get you a present, sweetie, don't worry about it. Like, you didn't just lose your innocence, you don't know if that thing can just die now. It feels very much so just trying to put a band-aid over a situation that has probably really scarred her. Yeah,
I really, bouncing off that, I really like the command she uses of like listen.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the song and like, well, basically the whole narrative of this girl's like destroyed like sense of reality and innocence and like all this stuff. And it's like the singing is sweet in the end, but you know, it's like the speaker or whoever is telling this poem is saying, you need to listen, you know, because this is happening.
Yeah, because it's like a call for people to pay attention. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that when this was released, when this poem was written. But I wanted to offer also just some other thought that came to my mind, though I'm not really the person in position to like kind of be speaking on it, but it's just some background knowledge that I'm aware of that I wanted to share. It says in the poem that they named the goat. Sorry, now I'm looking at the actual poem.
Yeah.
They named the goat. Where is it? Broken Thorn, Sweet Blackberry. To me, and maybe I don't know if this is just me. I don't know if you guys agree, but that has like a lot of racial undertones in it, especially when they start talking about the goat's hair as dark as well water. In terms of, you have, I think, you know, this sweet innocent girl that's trying to take care of a goat, and these kind of, you know, rambunctious boys trying to tear the goat apart, literally. And the reason I'm taking it to a racial place is because I don't know if you guys are familiar with like I don't know if you guys ever listen to Kendrick Lamar ever, but he has a song called, or maybe it's not the name of the song, I can't remember the name of the song, but there's a famous line in one of his songs.
The blacker the berry?
Yeah, blacker the berry, the sweeter the fruit. And then also the thing that kind of cemented it for me is that the first half is broken thorn, which to me takes me back to like cotton picking or something like that, where you have, you know, it's a dangerous working thing, and now this girl is naming it after that. To me, it kind of rings there. And then you interestingly have, again, like all the grown-ups in this situation, which I kind of would see as like society or something like that, trying to rectify everything, trying to like, you know, mediate between this group of very hostile boys and this sweet little girl who's just trying to, you know, help the goat and help it grow.
I just looked up when this poem was written to answer the first part of your thing, Bennett. It was published in 1994. And I never really thought about that angle of it, but I think there is validity in that interpretation. Because like obviously like Brigit Pegeen Kelly passed away a couple years ago. We can never really know what she meant when she wrote it, like in depth. And I don't know, whenever I read poetry, I always try and like, I think it's important to trust your own instincts as to what you think it might mean. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just word vomiting.
Interpretations up to the reader.
Yeah. I actually had one more. I just found one more point that I don't know. I don't want to hit this note too hard, but the fact that they put the goat in a head, or the goat's head in a tree, by itself reminds me, or like depicts a lot in my mind, like lynching and hanging of slaves and things like that. So that's, I don't know, when I was listening to it, that's something that kind of stood out to me, is like those, I was looking for, you know, all the different like metaphors and, you know, double meanings and things like that. Because I don't know, poetry's never surface level, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or rarely is it.
I've never thought of it like that. That's really
That's not something I picked up on, but
that doesn't mean it's not there though.
Yeah.
That's also why I was curious about the time period, but that kind of doesn't really find. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know.
And she's also she was also a white woman. So, I mean, obviously that doesn't mean that she can't write about the topic or anything like that, but I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely a pretty interesting angle you took on it.
She also talks about the fact, I'm really picking at straws here, but she talks about they mentioned like the railroad and the fact that the goat was like near the railroad, the which just word association reminds me of like Underground Railroad, which goes in line with that, and also about singing the whole time, that the goat is singing, and it's like pretty well known that slaves used to like sing, field songs and things like that to keep motivation and spirits high, and that people were still hearing those things even after the goat was dead or killed or whatever. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I don't know how many like analyses online there are of this poem, but I'm going to look into that afterwards. But yeah. I think I'm losing my train of thought. I don't know why I'm so
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. I guess something I'm interested to see. So, I don't know, Olivia. Do you like? Are you in the like poetry groups and stuff, or are you not as like really into poetry usually?
I write poetry. So I think that much I'm into. Dissecting poetry, I don't do it a ton. I have my own personal favorites or people that I go back to. I collect poetry books.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to say I don't overanalyze things, I think I try to take them at face value. Well, as face value as you can with some poems.
Right.
But yeah, that's where I come from. Why? I don't know.
Okay. Well, no. Well, so yeah, I was just
Why
wondering.
am I here?
No, obviously not that. I mean, so I'm assuming everyone like had like poetry units in like high school and stuff like that, at least to a certain extent. I know I did in like my high school and middle school, and I guess one of the things that we're interested in hearing about is like how you think this poem like compares to some of the poems you like. You don't have to explicitly name one that you like study, but like just the general theme of most poems that you would read in high school and whatnot. So I don't know if do you guys have any thoughts about that?
I mean, I can obviously like say like since it's from especially a female like contemporary poet, it's rare to see that on in any educational setting below college level, I'd say, because I don't think I was really exposed to any female contemporary poets in high school, if any contemporary poetry at all. I think it was probably mostly, I don't know, we had a big unit on the Romantics. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, I don't know. It was mostly men, and it was mostly old dudes. And obviously men won't always carry the same themes as say like a female poet. Because I don't know, people have a different touch. Like I would never see like a romantic male poet talking about menstruation in a poem, but I can hear a female contemporary poet talk about menstruation in a poem. Would that be talked about in high school? Probably not at all. So there's things about this poem that I could probably see showing up in a high school textbook, at least with like in regards to like an animal being symbolic of like violence against an animal being symbolic for violence against a person. Like I think that probably was done in some of the maybe transcendental, I don't know, but I just can't see this poem just showing up right now unless it's with someone who's real radical in the classroom, just because it's from a woman and it is from the last maybe 50 years.
All right. Does anyone?
Thank you.
Does anyone have any final thoughts before we maybe move on to the next thing? It's cool if not. We covered a lot.
I'm actually only going to be able to stay on for another couple minutes here.
No worries.
So sorry about that.
No
Do
worries.
you have any thoughts on how you think like something like this, a poem similar to this, written by like a contemporary female poet, how that compares to like what you've noticed in like your high school experience or middle school experience?
I don't remember learning a whole ton about poetry except for like the occasional acrostic poem. But what I can say is like I'm somebody who's like very, very into music, and I listen to my music with a lot of intent to like listen to the lyrics and understand what the artist is saying. And I would say that's a form of poetry as well, spoken word, in a sense. And it's hard to draw. I mean, it's certainly hard to draw parallels just because a melody always helps. But I think, I don't know, I think every artist has their own way they see the world, as does every poet has their own way of seeing the world. And their job is not to help people see what they see, but instead to help them see what they haven't seen yet. And so I think this is, that's something that's hugely important when we're talking about, now that I'm learning about it, poetry in today's world, that there's not, a fair amount of female exposure in that world. And that's problematic because I think the point of any of these poems is to, open people's minds. If you're not gonna, have equal opportunity to both male and female, then, I think we're going to miss out on a huge portion of, new intellectual understanding. And I think it's really great that it's being, kind of pushed more now.
Yeah.
Woo, you get snaps from me, Bennett. Woo.
What I was going for. No, I'm kidding.
All right. I think that's a really good place to like leave off on this poem. The next one we're going to look at is actually a song. And it's okay, Bennett, if you can't stay for the whole one, but
Yeah, I gotta go.
But if you do have to go in the middle, like, thank you. And like your insight was really appreciated. So
yeah, this was super interesting. I think I'm gonna head off right now, but I really thank you, Ethan, for the invite. This was definitely like, I don't get to do this. I'm an engineering major, so definitely don't get to do this ever. But yeah, this was super nice. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your perspective.
thank you so much.
All right, see you guys.
All right, cool. I'm glad he showed up, but
Yeah.
we are going to, for this one, we're not going to read it out loud because it's a song. We're going to listen to Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash, because I love him.
He's my favorite.
He's such a babe.
I went to his museum.
You did? Is there a
in Tennessee?
Where's that?
It's right off of Broadway in Nashville.
Nice.
Yeah.
I watched the Johnny Cash biopic with Joaquin Phoenix a little ago, like over spring break. And
Ooh, Joaquin.
And I know that June and Johnny's romance was very Hollywoodized for that movie, but I was like, this is the epitome of what love should
Yes.
And it was so.
Oh, gosh, that was Reese Witherspoon was in that, wasn't she?
I love her. She was. She played June.
She's beautiful.
Hold on. I have so many tabs open right now, so I just gotta click through all of them till I get there. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen, and then just let me know if you can hear it. Hold on.
Will do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Now let me know if you can hear it.
Ah.
Sorry, that's loud. I'm so sorry.
I'm stuck in old prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rolling on down to San Antonio. But I was just a baby. My mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blow, I hang my head and cry.
There he is. Dave.
I've been measuring folk people in the fancy dining car. Every company drink coffee and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. But those people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. But if they freed me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, I bet I'd move it on a little farther down the line, far from Folsom Prison. That's where I want to stay. And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow the blues away.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All right. So, it's a famous song. You might have heard it before if you're a Cash fan. But just like initial thoughts or anything, if you have any.
Initial thoughts are that one of the best lines in any song ever written is, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. Because that's just so fucking metal, man.
Yeah.
But I think when I was listening to that part, especially because we just read the previous poem, it was sort of like one of those things where you can only draw parallels to something once you just immediately heard it right after. It just reminds me of that part, like at the end of the poem, that's like a low, like a mother's song to like a boy, like because before that he says like, a mother, don't you play with guns, trying to warn a boy off of like behavior or something. And then those from the previous poem that we read, those boys hearing later in the sound of like the wind, their mothers like warning them of behavior and such like that. Also, there's a sound of a whistle blowing, which I don't know, also carries over from sort of like the previous poem. I don't know if that was your intention with picking this song.
I didn't pick
But
in any order or with any connection.
whoa, heck yeah. But somehow I think they fit very well together, especially because they're sort of talking about, I don't know, well, maybe not unknown, but like the consequences for like an act of violence.
Mm-hmm.
Like one was just sort of guilt, and then the other is actual penitentiary, like, repercussions.
Yeah.
My thoughts. Whoa.
I didn't like think of this until we were just listening. but I'm trying to articulate it, but like the idea of like movement and like being stationary, like in a penitentiary, as opposed to penitentiary. I can't speak.
Penitentiary?
That too.
Penitentiary.
Penitentiary.
A prison.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, that contrast of like the rich people in the train and then how he's
Mhm.
stuck having to watch the movement. And I get the feeling that there's not a whole lot of remorse from the speaker. But like, I don't know where I'm going with that. Yeah. I like the idea of like class disparity and like movement, and then having to watch that from a stationary position as a form of punishment, whether that's intended or not by the people running the prison. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I felt some level of guilt within the song, but you're right. I don't know if it's rather for his situation. Like, I'm sad about where I am right now, rather than I'm sad that I did that. Because he says, like, after, like, when I hear that whistle blow and I hang my head and cry. Well, is it because you can't get out, or is it because that sound reminds you where you're at and why you're there? It's a question that he doesn't really answer, but he does say, but those people keep him moving, and that's what tortures me, rather than like, oh, I took a man's life and that's what tortures me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, you never,
No, yeah.
No, you go. No, go. I was just going to say that you don't really ever know anything about the man in Rito. So did he deserve it? I don't know. So go for you.
Yeah, I mean, going off of that, I thought it's interesting. Like, I don't know, you kind of want to like feel bad for this guy, and like you almost do feel bad for him, but then like, but I mean, he like killed someone, and it seems like he had like it seems like it was pretty cold blooded, and like there was absolutely no reason for it. But like, despite that, it's like you kind of like feel bad for him because he's just like so tortured, and it's not even I guess him being in jail alone that's torturing him, but it's him knowing that other people are free to do whatever they want, and that's kind of what tortures him, and just what he's dealing with or whatever is being in the prison. Yeah. The other thing I kind of noticed was the structure of the song, and how it's like the first verse is like talking about how he got there, and then the second verse was him like reflecting on his past, and how he like just directly contradicted his mother. And then it's like back to the present where he's talking about hearing all the other people, and then the last verse is like, and in like an alternate reality where he's not imprisoned, he's like speculating on what he would do and whatnot.
I didn't intend this when I like picked out some of these, but like it's almost like another form of narrative poetry than put to me.
Yeah.
No doubt. I noticed that as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I was kind of thinking as well when we were listening about like Johnny Cash himself and the way he would like perform in a lot of prisons, and like how his agents oftentimes wouldn't like be too happy about that, considering he was like a big star when he started doing it, and they thought it would like hurt his image, or like that he shouldn't be like catering to incarcerated like people. And I think that's neat. And I don't know a lot about Johnny Cash aside from like what I've read about Johnny and June and like what I've seen in the Johnny Cash biopic. But like, I was Googling him a little bit ago when I was picking out some of these poems. And he actually has like poetry not written for music that he wrote, and it was like published by his son after he died, and it's like mostly love poems for June, and they're really sweet. So like,
he's a beautiful
man. If you have the chance, but I don't know. There's like this. When I hear this song and I think about those love poems he wrote, like published posthumously, I feel like there's a very performative nature to this kind. Like, not like obviously because it's a song, it's listened to and performed, but like it's almost like this persona of like the man in black, like the like guy who shoots people, you know, and then he moves his wife, you know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's just what I was kind of focused on. Yeah, let me see if I can find some of the poems he wrote through that word.
Yeah,
He died.
I think also just the fact that he's, you know, writing poetry from the perspective of like an inmate. That alone is like a really unique perspective that like almost never gets talked about. Certainly not in an educational setting. And like I guess just a little bit about our class, Olivia, is like one. I mean, like one of the articles we wrote was about, or one of the articles we went over was about, like poetry in the prisons, and like there's one about like poetry is in prisons in like San Francisco, where and I mean those people are like falsely imprisoned, but just kind of how that perspective is just like very rarely looked. Oh no, you know what it was? It was the TED Talk is the one I'm thinking of, I think, where like a guy talked about how he went into a prison like every week. He was like a college student and was doing poetry with like these inmates, and he talked about how like it was some of the best poetry he'd ever gone over.
Olivia, do you know the spoken word poet Phil Kay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, that was the TED Talk.
That was Phil Kay. Oh, I haven't watched that one. I've watched Sarah Kay's. I haven't watched Phil Kay's. Her book.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa!
It's one of hers.
Book, the paperback.
Yeah. Actually, it's just sitting on my bed.
That's crazy.
What was I saying? But yeah, Phil Kay he does a TED Talk, and it's on YouTube of like his experience like teaching his own poetry workshops in like for incarcerated people.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah. If you just Google like Phil Kay TED Talk.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't remember how we got here, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we have any final thoughts before we maybe move on?
No.
Cool. Okay. Okay, the next one is by Raych Jackson. It's the Pantoum for, hold on. I'm trying.
Darian Albert.
Darian Albert from The Plank. This one, I found it in an online lit mag. It's not the most user-friendly, which is unfortunate. You just kind of got to zoom in And like worst case, I can also screen share.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like pages 22 and 23. You just kind of got to arrow through them. Y'all have it pulled up?
I do.
Okay, cool. I'm just flipping right now. And then we can do another popcorn reading if y'all are into that. Or we can just have one person read, whatever your heart desires.
I found a better version where I don't have to look at it like that.
Oh, excellent. Okay,
Okay.
cool. I'll just read from the one I have up. But yeah,
Go
do we
for
want
it.
to do another popcorn?
Sure.
Sick. I can start off. Okay, I'll also read the preface here, just to give a little bit of context. In September 2009, Darian Albert's murder was caught on tape. The video spread through the world quicker than the south side of Chicago could be gentrified through the Olympic bid. Killers are shown kicking Darian in the face and smashing his head with a wooden plank. His hands were soft on my hips. We were bound together. How often does that happen? Wooden individuals shaped and dyed to look the same as them, brown like the next. We all look the same to them, brown like the next. Sturdy. Popcorn, Ethan, if you have it up.
Yeah, I got it. Wooden individuals shaped and dyed to look the same as them, brown like the next. There are many uses for a snatched tree, easy to be broken and passed around. Each ring tells achievements of sorts, sturdy. He needed a capable dancer. There are many uses for a snatched tree, easy to be broken and passed around. Each ring tells achievements of sorts. A partner whose spine can bend with the grace of politicians' tongues, built on corroding law enforcement. He needed a capable dancer. I'm someone that will sacrifice my body, spreading through skulls. Popcorn, Olivia.
A partner whose spine bend with the grace of politicians' tongues built on corroding law enforcement. We danced to the music made that day, a slow melody assembled from the dull connection with heads and shrieks carrying his name. I'm someone that will sacrifice my body, spreading through skulls. Admire me, focus on me. I beat them all. We danced to the music that day, a slow melody assembled from the dull connection with heads and shrieks carrying his name. We all look the same to them, brown like the next. Admire me, focus on me. I beat them all. His hands were soft on my hips. We were brown together. How often does that happen?
Nice.
No.
Yeah, thoughts? If you're
And initial thoughts, I swear I heard a poem like this before, and it's not this poem, so I'm very confused. And I swear it was probably a spoken word poem on Button Poetry's thing, and I'm not sure what poem it is, but it's from an inanimate object to someone who is being hurt, I believe.
do you
So
know
I'm very curious now. No, I don't. I don't know. It's just there's something very familiar about this poem, but not in like I've ever read it before, but just in the fact that it's like an inanimate object talking to a person that is being hurt by it. I don't know. If I find it, I'll let you know. But I'm just that was my initial thought. It was like, I've heard this before, but I don't know if it's this. So I'm very confused now. Also, I think it's just very, very sad that like that observation has to be made or like can be made that like, oh, I'm a wooden board. You're brown? I'm brown too, and I'm hitting you. So yeah.
the first time I read it, I didn't even process that it was like from an inanimate object. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't really think of the title too much. I don't know, I just kind of got into it, and I was like,
Mhm.
this is like a really sad love story, or like a really sad like speaker
Mhm.
about like someone who was murdered that was important to them.
Yeah.
And then I like went back and I was like, oh, um,
Oh, I didn't realize that
Yeah.
until you just said that.
That's worse. Oh.
yeah,
And like he's the wooden plank that like they smashed his head with.
yeah, that's basically the concept. Yeah,
I think like especially with that uh like that assumption, like, oh, this is sort of like supposed to be, it sounds loving, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like each ring tells achievements of sorts, sturdy, especially that line. Like he needed a capable dancer. Like that's horrible because that line just says like, well, each time it hit his head, like it sounded like it was triumphant,
mhm.
and that's just terrible. But it's written so kindly. Yeah,
Like
in a way.
it's okay. This is really weird, and I'm trying to think of how to word it, but like tonally, like it felt very romantic to me the first time I read it,
Mm-hmm.
and before I processed fully what was going on. And I feel like the same could be said for a story like Lolita, which is
Yeah.
about like child abuse, child sexual
Mm-hmm.
abuse, but like under a romantic lens. And like there's something really like scary about like just the way like someone can craft a narrative like that, where it's like they almost trick you into feeling like mushy, or like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh, she's like 12 or he's being murdered. you know um and I'm also trying to figure out like, does everyone know like what a pantoum is?
No, I don't. I should have asked that because I
Wow,
meant
that's
to.
cool. It's like, I don't know like exactly how it's supposed to be formatted, because it's like it's really hard to write one. I've tried before, but it's like you're essentially using the same like couple of lines over and over,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like
Mm-hmm.
in a certain order, and it's like, ah, I want to see if like I can Google like how the format is supposed to look, but it's
I
really,
found one.
you kind
Yeah.
of cycle
Yeah.
the same lines and make them sound coherent in whatever order you put
Mm-hmm.
them in. Um, and I'm just trying to think of like what that does for the poem, like how does that contribute? And I don't have an answer for that right
I mean,
now.
I think I guess one way, because I did notice that how there were like this a few lines that were used over and over, and I don't know, like to me it seemed like they kind of sometimes they would like take on a new meaning. So like the line, it would mean like it would have like one sort of connotation like at the beginning of the poem, when you're still thinking like, oh, maybe it's like they're talking about like some nice thing, um but then when it's like the same line, like the one that's like brown like the next, and then when it's used at like the bottom of it, at the bottom of the poem, the end, then it's like kind of bad,
Mhm.
and like it's like I don't know, more evil. That's kind of what I picked up on.
Real quick, I found like a visual of how it should, like a pantoum is
Mm-hmm.
typically formatted. I don't know how to share an image, so I'll share my screen real quick just so you have a little bit of context for it. Yeah, that's like, it's kind of like this, like you recycle line B
Mm-hmm.
into the next stanza, and like D goes in that one, and it's really hard for me to like, I had to like try and write one of these for my creative writing class in high school, and I was like, this is awful, and I got really frustrated. So I don't know. Yeah. Oh, wait, wrong one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I saw Netflix, not necklace. Netflix improv. What is that?
I was just
What are
Googling
you watching?
what you guys were talking about before we started the Netflix.
Oh, improviser.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
gonna put it on the list.
Heck yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was gonna put it on the improv page.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
No, I think the format is very interesting now that you brought it up. I feel like I can't totally take it in without like staring at it for a long time
this is
to
definitely
try and decipher how much anything actually changes.
this is a
I
poem
feel it. Yeah.
I read like a couple times over to like
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I think also a lot of poems are like that, which is why it was really hard to decide which ones I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
select.
Good morning, America.
Who is this? Clayton, is
This
that
is
you?
Outback. Yeah, it is.
Hi! Oh my god,
Hello.
I didn't think you were coming. How are you?
I am tired. I'm only just out of bed. It's about 9 o'clock.
Oh my gosh, I forgot.
Morning here.
I was like thinking it's gonna be really early for you. Y'all, this is my friend Clayton from Australia. We worked at camp together as counselors.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Madison,
Hang
that
on, I'll
scared
turn
me
my
so
webcam on
much.
in a second.
no worries.
I look a mess, but I have to go to class in a second anyway. Hello.
You don't look.
What's going
Wow.
on?
Yeah, as I said, I've only just woken up, but I made my bed.
I'm proud.
Fantastic. Perfect.
Oh,
That
So
what
was
time
so
is it over there?
surprising.
right now it's 6:17 p.m. in Illinois.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
do not miss chasing campers at this time of night.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, have I missed much?
Not. We've just been kind of conversing about poetry. We've been reading. We just got through like 2. We're on our 3rd right now.
I'm
And
excited.
yeah, if you have the links from the Facebook page, if not, I can share my screen or like send you the links in the chat.
Let me just pull it up on my screens.
No worries. But yeah, we're reading the one by Raych Jackson. It's called Pantoum for Darian Albert from the Plank.
Yep.
How much do you read poetry or like interact with poetry?
I haven't read poetry for a while. I used to write a fair bit of it, and like this much of it.
Wow.
Whoa.
But
Your
that's from
book's
like
worth,
10 years ago plus.
but
Nice.
they're still within reaching distance. What does that say?
But I haven't looked at them in years, and I should probably not read them.
Oh
Let's have a
you,
look at
like,
dates. Oh, 2008. Oh, it's 12 years ago.
my.
Oh no. It's angsty teen Clay. No.
Good.
Oh no, even older. 2007. Do I have anything earlier? And also, the worst bit is, I didn't start at the front of the book. I just kind of threw them in wherever.
I do that with my poetry. I'll just grab a notebook and throw it in.
That's too much writing, and it's all illegible because my handwriting is fucking terrible still. I
Good.
could be a doctor with handwriting this bad.
Nice. Well, we're going to like probably do a short little, I mean, if everyone else is like comfy, like we'll do a short little share if you want to, but it's okay if not.
It's alright, I'll see if I can find anything worth reading.
Okay.
I'm cool.
God, I was such a cool kid.
Good. I think I didn't start writing poetry till my senior year of high school, and it was just after I got upset that like my boyfriend dumped me. So that
Yeah, I
was
think that was a lot of the influence behind my stuff.
Good.
Upset poetry is the best poetry, or it's the best fuel for poetry. Either
It's
one.
It's stuff like, oh, I'm 14. They just got dubbed. Oh, woe is me.
The best kind.
Yeah. But there is
Best.
my favorite poet. Her name is Olivia Gatwood. And she does a lot of poetry about the experiences of being a teen girl. And
I love her.
there's something to be
Great.
said about writing as a teenager, or writing about like getting dumped or being in love, and that person you're in love with being a butthead, you know. And like, I was also watching one of her TED Talks a while ago, or not a while ago because I'm obsessed with her, but he was talking about how like teen girls and their writing, because she also does workshops with a lot of like high schoolers and like college aged people, how like she'll see a lot of like students she in her workshops like say, my poetry is not worth reading, it's just like, a love poem, or it's just about me being sad, but I don't know, she emphasizes the importance of our own personal narratives, and like how we shouldn't let those get brushed aside just because like, there are English teachers out there who are only having you read like Shakespeare or like whatever old dude poets like are being talked about in classrooms right now, Yeah, I'm word vomiting, but
It's okay.
yeah.
I love vomit.
Because like we also read the love poetry of like people like the romantics like Byron, who like just talks about how hot this one gal is, like, or so like why isn't like teen girl poetry like about being in love with a boy and getting dumped not like seen as something that can also be appreciated,
That's facts, yeah.
And that's also just kind of me being bitter because like I also struggle with those feelings of like I want to be published someday, but also like I worry that like putting my like angsty love poetry out there will not be like considered like worthy.
High literature.
Yeah, nice. But
that's a classist way of looking at it, though.
it is. It's like, I don't know, it's very elitist the way like some people like guard this, what we call the canon of poetry, from like voices aside from the ones that have been pre-approved for like, intense like study, Yeah. But I don't remember where we were. Have you got the Pantoum poem up, Clay?
It's I gotta zoom out of it to make sure I'm Pantoum for Darian Albert from the Plank.
Yes. It's not like the most user-friendly magazine, which is
That's all right. I've got it up.
okay, cool. But yeah, you can take a minute if you need to like read through it. It's it's by this poem. This poet, her name is Raych Jackson. She's also like she's also kind of linked with people like Olivia Gatwood and like those button poetry poets. For anyone who listens or watches button poetry, you do.
I do.
And yeah. And like what we were talking about is basically how this structure of a pantoum, which is basically using a certain like number of lines and repeating them, like to kind of get a point across. I'm not explaining that well, but yeah, we were talking about like her use of repetition and seeing how that like plays with the poem, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, and I'll just give you a minute, Clay, and whenever you're done.
Oh, I've already finished reading it.
Oh, great. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm
Speed reader.
fast. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm a very slow reader, so I always give more time for a lot of people than.
No, that's appreciated.
Um,
I'm just writing a poem down I wrote actually a couple of weeks ago.
oh, really?
I'm just
Good.
putting it into my book. So.
Do you have any thoughts on the pantoum? And it's okay if not, or if you're still thinking.
Some of the language is confusing to me. I snatched tree. I don't know what that is. So I don't know if that's specifically an American phrase I don't understand.
I think it's to mean that it came from a tree, like you snatched it away, like it was stolen, like it was once part of a tree but isn't anymore. I don't know. That's what I took it to mean.
That's not an American euphemism I've ever heard.
No.
Okay.
No.
The poet just
I
playing.
don't know. You guys have different euphemisms and stuff to us. So as we found out at camp.
Yes.
I don't know, like if you think about it, like there are many uses for a snatched tree. Well, it's talking about like, okay, a tree that was stolen from the earth. Okay, you could make a table out of a tree. That's one use for a snatched tree. Or you could beat someone over the head with it. That's another use for a snatched tree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to read this tiny print. But we were also talking about. I'm also just trying to catch back up. But we were also talking about like the way I personally, with this poem, I didn't process right away that this poem was like from the point of view of like the plank that was used to murder this boy. And it came off as just like a love poem, you know, for someone that was like murdered. And so that sets up a really interesting relationship between the plank and Darian, you know. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other thoughts on this? If not, we can move on and maybe go to the next. Well, we can either look at one more or we can go into some free writing. It's up to you guys.
I think one of the things that I sort of, I don't know, I sort of questioned why it was there or just what it actually meant to someone was like the lines that were kept together, like admire me, focus on me, I beat them all.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of don't quite like understand that. Is it saying that people were more focused on like being beaten on the plank rather than the actual injustice that's happening with like the south side of Chicago? Or rather, was it just, I don't know.
I
I'm
kind
not
of
sure.
thought about that in relation to like what she's talking about with politicians' tongues. I'm trying to find but it's almost like a cover up, or not a cover up, but like I don't know, it's like a distraction from like person, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
let's talk about the object or the act as opposed to like the individual.
Yeah.
Is how I saw it.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
God, where is it? Okay.
Like with the grace of politicians' tongues built on corroding law enforcement.
A partner whose spine can bend with the grace of politicians' tongues. And it's like, it's almost like they're trying to, it's like the plank is asking people who are hearing about this happening to like, I don't know, it's almost like the plank is bending in the same way the tongue does, like the politician tongue does, like it dances to try and distract people
Mm-hmm.
from like Darian who was murdered, you know? And that's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And that's kind of what I got, but there could be other ways of looking at it too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That's pretty much the thoughts I had about it. But I don't know. It's up to you guys. Do you want to go move on to another, like it would be one last song, or we could do some free writing? Whatever you want.
Either one is good with me.
I'm happy with anything. As I said, came to listen in before I'm supposed to be in class.
Okay, cool. In
My
that
class
case,
is boring.
class.
I'm getting certified in IT, so I can do cybersecurity.
Ooh, fun.
And it's annoying because I know a lot of this stuff, and I hate the fact that the teachers are treating us like we're idiots. But also, I've seen half the class, so
I believe in you. You can power through it.
You got it.
boring.
But yeah, we can yeah, I don't know how much time like everyone has left. So let's maybe move on to some free writing, if that's all right with everyone.
Yeah.
Um okay, so it's fine. Like you can use whatever you want. Like you could just type on your computer or like a piece of paper, or you could use like just your phone. I'll probably be using my phone to do this. So if you see me, I'm not texting. But yeah, I was thinking, I don't really have a writing prompt for us. I was thinking just stream of consciousness, drawing from the poems we've been like talking about. And like Clayton, you got here late and that's fine. So if you want to just stream of conscious about what you want, or just think about the one poem you arrived for, that's cool. You don't even have to use the poems if you don't want. I don't know. I think it's just to kind of get the juices flowing. That's
It's
what I
alright.
do before I start actually writing poetry. Yeah. So I'll set like a timer for like, I don't know, 5 minutes. Does that
Yeah.
sound good? And if we want, we can share. We don't have to though. And yeah.
Coolio. Not what I wanted.
So I don't like what I've written.
Well, you know, I don't like anything I write, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's 3 lines and it sounds like a limerick.
That's fine. Anything is fine. Right now,
Mm,
I'm just stream of consciousing. Like, just like saying whatever comes to my head, if that works better.
no, that's fair.
Yeah. About 45 more seconds. All right. That was just my alarm. So, I don't know. That was just I don't know, kind of, I used it to reflect on like the poems we were talking about, and the conversation we had. Um, does anyone want to share? It's okay if not.
Hey Joe, is the stuff in
I'll lead us off. Mine is objectively horrible, but that's okay. And I tried my best to take it seriously, which is not very easy for me to do.
It's not
Um,
me either.
okay. Here we are, zooming. Separate but together. Oh, it's a Pantone, by the way. It's a Pantone.
Ooh.
Here we are, zooming. Separate but together, from all around the globe. Outback is here. Was he late or early? From all
Like that.
around the globe. Here we are, zooming. Some driving, some sitting. Are we late or early? Separate but together. Thank you.
Oh, good work.
That was excellent. I hate writing Pantone so much. Like, that was good for a first try. I usually just throw mine away.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. Does anyone else want to share? If not, I can.
Give me just a moment to send this message.
No worries.
As I said, mine's only 3 lines long,
That's okay.
and it's very heavily influenced by that poem. I did a quick little bit of researching on it, and it's just called Cracks. Cracks on the sidewalk, cracks in your mind, cracks in the breaking of some poor man's spine.
That's really cool. Snaps. All right, cool. I don't know. I feel like quality over quantity. So 3 lines is good. Because sometimes
Yeah.
whenever I try and like sit down and force myself to write, sometimes that's all I can get out, and that's fine.
That just came up because all I could think is, they hit him with a plank, and it keeps being mentioned in the poem of spines. I'm fairly sure it actually mentioned something about spine cracking, but yeah.
I can share mine. I really just kind of word vomited onto I say word vomit a lot, but yeah, I just kind of wrote into my notes app whatever I was thinking. And I was kind of fixated on like the idea of like narrative poetry and like storytelling. So yeah, I don't know. That's a typo. Okay. I don't know. I can write if I can write about love anymore when I'm really sick of using the same words over and over. And maybe I just have to work on being in love in a different way. Sometimes I bite my nails, the skin around my nails, and I'm looking at the scar on my thumb right now and the terrible callus, and maybe the way I love had calloused over for a while. Maybe I need to start telling a new story where love isn't the center. It's just the thing that brings joy amongst all the other stories I live with. I've been writing the word love a lot. So yeah, that was mine.
No.
Olivia, do you have anything? It's okay if you don't want to share though. I think you're muted.
Yes, I came into my closet because I don't like my family hearing me.
Oh, good. That's okay.
Yes. Okay. This is a poem that I wrote 3 years ago and then came back to and then sort of finished because that's the only way I write poetry.
Mm-hmm.
It does not have a title. The night you smoked weed for the first time, you were much less cool than you ever thought you would be. You took 2 puffs and tweaked so hard, you asked if you should go to the hospital. And I said, no, you'll be fine. People have been on so many more prescriptions than you and been fine. Your body was vibrating, but not a wavelength I could see with my eyes or feel with my hands. I held you as you tried to understand what you were feeling, the consciousness you had never reached with Adderall or antipsychotics or the billion other drugs you've taken. Until now, they had all been legal. I'm trying to focus on something to see if it helps, you said. Okay, what color is that mirror? I asked. Gray. What is it shaped like? A mirror. You laughed and laid your head on my shoulder like I told the best joke in the world. I think this is my penance for that last time I didn't hold you. When you went through withdrawal after staying up all night studying, not taking your medication because it would have put you to sleep. When you broke that boy's nose for calling you gay and spent all day in an office with that priest. When you fell in the river and walked back to our house, clothes plastered to your body, icicles on your ears, you didn't jump in. You swore you didn't jump in. Your breath on my hands, your back to my front. Meanwhile, I still haven't gotten high. Thank you. Da 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 da.
Nice. I like, for a long while with my own poetry, I really liked playing with like the you in a poem, the you character, wherever that might be. So I was like, nice, other people do that too.
No, it's like when I don't want to name someone, it's always just you.
Like
You's
if
always just there.
an ex, you're not gonna, like, right, fuck you, Brian. It's gonna
Yeah. Fuck
God
you.
damn it, Brian.
Fuck you, you.
Yeah.
Okay, out of the closet now. I feel safe. Safe again. I have a door. I just don't think it works as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed all of those. So give you all some snaps or claps.
Yay.
Oh,
And that
It was fun.
I think sharing writing is an act of bravery, in all cases, even if you've done it 100 times before. So yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, I expected more people for an open mic situation. So if you all feel like sharing more more poetry, you are welcome to. If not, we can go look at one more poem and then depart.
I am happy to share this one that I just jotted down in my book.
Woo.
Excellent.
Also just typing it up at the moment.
No worries.
It's called A Wander. Come wander with me, through the mountains, by the sea, across the plains as far as we can see. And so I'll ask, my dear, I'll ask without fear, won't you come wander with me?
Nice.
Cute.
So yeah.
Did you just think of that now?
No, that's the poem that I wrote earlier this year.
Oh, cool. Nice. Did you read through the old books of poetry that you have?
No, but I actually checked through Facebook to find it, but I did write it down in my book.
Oh,
It was on your
good.
Facebook?
That's
Well, it was
great.
in a message to someone on Facebook.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Nice.
That was cool.
I think there is something to be said with how different accents give something to poetry, because it just wouldn't have the same lilt from someone who is Midwestern.
Look, my Midwestern impression isn't all that good, or I'd try it.
I think you should.
Ooh, you should try. Give it a crack on.
Midwestern, God, Midwestern wasn't one I was good at. I could do Obama
Do Obama.
in
Well, you
Texas.
you can try.
Pretty good at Obama. In fact, I've got a
No
poster
way.
right here. Yeah, I think you'll find that I'm pretty good. I've got a poster right here from Shoes on my wall of Obama.
My
So I
niece
can look up and,
had campus shoes, so and I got him a poster for
That's
yeah,
interesting.
that is sitting on my wall directly where I can look up from my computer and see it, and on the other side is what would Sagan do.
good.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, I can do it Obama pretty well. Oh, I
It's
like to think it's pretty well.
interesting because you sort of sound like every, strangely enough, Southern news correspondent, because they're supposed to have Midwestern accents, but they really can't sometimes.
Now, I'm from Baton Rouge, Florida, and I disagree with that on
Louisiana.
principle.
Baton Rouge, Florida.
Louisiana.
I don't know where any of it's from. It's from South.
That's okay.
Somewhere in the South.
You were
And
in
it
the
ain't
South.
Texas.
You're correct. It's correct. It was not Texas.
Yo, can you Outback? You want to do me a favor? Can you say happy birthday, Rebecca, like Obama?
Now, Rebecca, I'd like to wish you a happy birthday on behalf of me and Michelle. We're just chilling over here with Rich. Oh, what was it? No, because Shoes knows the joke that I'm making.
Oh God.
Yeah. My fellow Americans. While I'd love to run for a third term, unfortunately I can't. So while you're all suffering under Trump's regime, I'm going to be over here with Richard Branson. Elon Musk, if you're watching this, give us a call.
I think I remember.
Obama out.
How lovely.
I was talking with Clay. I was talking from Alto or Jessica from
Yeah.
camp. She kept going like, "Hey, remember when we did this?" And I'm already forgetting everything because I'm a turd. I don't know. I think
No, that's about right. It's like, it was so long ago. It was only last year.
Yeah.
That's 12 years ago in Australian time.
Yes, it is. It's a couple hours more than 12 years. But what was I gonna say? I don't remember anymore.
You're talking with Alto.
No. Yeah. Do we quarantine has like turned my brain to mush. Is that the peach flavor?
Goddamn right it is.
Okay.
It's the only flavor of this we have on the shelves here, and I'm like,
I'm so upset because like, okay, so for context, at our camp, like for 1 week only, like our camp director ordered like Arizona peach iced tea. And you know, there's always that, like there's the raspberry and then there's the shitty diet peach. But this was not diet. And I've been trying to find it ever since, but I can't.
almost every supermarket every Woolworths and Coles, our two big supermarkets, has Arizona iced tea, and it's only ever in peach.
I'm so upset that I don't.
So large.
Australia is the superior country, clearly.
It is.
This is 1.5 liters, and I have to try and figure out what that is in gallons, because you guys use the bad measurement system.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we use liters also, right?
You do?
Yeah.
We use liters for soda.
For like, yeah,
Very
soda or
often.
like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a gallon of soda, but you can also get a certain liter of soda. It's just
Liter
a little
of
bit
water.
smaller.
I think they do that for water also, right?
You'll
They
never
do.
get, like a liter of milk. Like
No.
so
No.
we're just like the soda's in
If you want, I will go and grab a liter of milk from the fridge.
It's just, there's nothing that's bigger than a gallon, really.
Yeah, that's because it's
That's put in
3.7
gallons.
liters.
If
So
you
when
get
you guys
a thing of boxed wine, it's probably still in liters.
yeah, I mean our goon comes up to 20-liter box like cartons.
Say that again. You just say goon?
Yeah,
What
goon.
was it? What?
Cheap cask wine or box wine is called goon in Australia, which is made even funnier because we have a town called Nanagoon.
good.
That is actually the name of the town. It's not named after goon wine.
I'm gonna use that all the time.
Yeah,
June, do you
If-
want?
I love boxed wine.
if you look up goon, you'll probably find there's a really Australian, and it only exists in Australia. There's a special old type of rotary clothesline called a Hills hoist. Basically, you clip a goon bag up to the clothesline, open it, and spin it, and people are just standing there trying to drink it as it spins around.
See, Madison, this is a
Welcome
little
to
like
Australia.
slap bag, but we call it. No, it's not the same thing, but it's slap bag.
Slap
But this
back.
sounds fun. Yeah. Madison, I have to go eat dinner.
That's okay. I think
Okay.
I think we can wrap up.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And
Thank you so much for this experience. It was very fun.
Hell yeah. I think that might also be a good place to wrap it up for the rest of us too. So, Clayton, thank you for coming in for the
Oh,
here for, and I'm so happy I got to see you. It's been so long.
it really has been, and it was my pleasure to come. I'm kind of disappointed I can't come over to camp this year, but
Okay.
I will probably need surgery on my knee, so
Oh no. I hope that goes well.
yeah. I see the surgeon on Tuesday to figure out whether or not I need surgery. It's been 2 months since I saw him, and I've just been doing physio. But my physio reckons I'm going to need surgery if I'm ever going to be able to hike again. So
Update
I love
me,
hiking.
like, text me and tell me how that goes.
I will. It'll probably be
Thank
after you.
you.
It'll be after you go to sleep, probably.
Probably, but that's okay.
All right. I will make sure to keep you updated on my knee.
All right.
You have to keep me updated if there's more poetry or comedy stuff that you're putting out.
I definitely will.
Alrighty. I'm going to go to class now.
Good. I have to figure out how to save this recording.
Yeah, I think it's like, yeah, that would be bad if we lost it. I think it's like,
Yeah, I think it would be bad.
when you end the meeting, it should like automatically save it to like your computer.
See you.
Thanks, man.
It'll automatically save.
Let me Google it real quick.
Okay. I'll also probably cut down like filler conversations that we've been having, and like
Yeah, go ahead.
and also like when we do our presentation, we'll just show clips and stuff.
Oh, okay. So it says there should be a window that says like more or like a button.
More.
You see something that says more?
Which quadrant is it in?
Honestly, I don't see it either.
Yeah.
What happens if you click like the record button again?
Well, there's a